What is up, everybody? Welcome back to the Burndown YouTube channel. We are still on the Malibu, and we are hoping to get in that maiden voyage. If you've been following along on the build, we refreshed the motor and transmission. We put it all together, and then the oil O-ring freaking got me, dude. So I knew better, but it is what it is. So we also had an issue where I had this big elephant trunk of a hot side that used to clear a steering box, and it decided to bake my alternator. Although I do have to say, my boys over at War Performance, namely Joe, big shout out to Joe, was like, hey, we powder coated that bracket we made you, but it's not grounding to the engine block, because on your bracket setup for your alternator, it grounds through the actual bracket. And then I was like, I didn't even think about that. So they're geniuses, so big shout out to them. So we may have not have actually cooked the alternator, and it may have been a grounding issue, but I bet it was kind of both, because I barely had like a finger air gap between the big old donkey hot side and the alternator. So we actually corrected that. It is the weekend. I spent nights and evenings plugging away at this thing. So we got the O-ring done. We've got the hot side corrected. We'll pull the hood off here in a second, and I'll show you boys. So today's goal is to take our time, get this thing all put back together and not miss anything, and fire it up, and we'll see what the oil pressure actually does this go around. So previously it was starting at like 35, and then it would just kind of die off from there. So I think we'll kind of have our answer when this thing fires up. If it's still at the 35, then it's like, it's kind of suspect. If it's over that, that means we're building more pressure, and then I'll feel better about life. So let's get started. Today's assembly day. And then one more quick thing too, I didn't show you guys, but I wired the transmission cooler fan, because it has a built-in cooler on the fan in the back, and I tested it like I do in all my videos to find out which direction I wanted to spin. I actually wanted to blow on the cooler instead of try to suck through it, because these fans, for whatever reason, they seem to work better in that general direction. And I went through the whole rigmarole, wired the whole damn thing up, and I wired it backwards. So before we even test or whatever, I'm going to correct that too, because I'll lose sleep over that. So today is about taking our time, enjoying the day. It is beautiful. The birds are chirping. It's nice and warm. I think it may be hot later, which is good testing weather. But taking our time, going through with a fine-tooth comb, making sure I cross my T's, dot my I's, and then hopefully we get this thing running decent so that we can do more work to it, because I still have more stuff on the list. So let's get rolling. Okay, so there's a look at the new hot side. It goes, and it's kind of a little closer to the dampener, but I don't think that's going to be an issue. Hopefully, you know, everything likes to bite me. But as you can see, we've got all the gap on the planet right now. And then again, I need to remove some of the powder coating, so that way it's making contact into the head and then contact to the case on here, and then we'll clean the case off. The funny part is I never really thought about it, you know? You plug in one hot wire, the little lead, and then you're good to go. Well, you have to have it ground. That's how electricity works. So even on my other one, it's funny because I don't know where it's hiding over there. That thing's probably fine. So this one's actually a borrowed unit, but I know this one works, and that one was giving me like nothing. So I'm gonna stick with this thing because I really don't feel like doing the dance. But we'll clean everything up. We'll run this guy. My new wonderfully beautiful bird crap welds are looking spicy as all get out. So again, this is bolted down. These are all torqued up, so this is ready to go. This was set in place just to see the gap. But let's clean these off. I'll just go through, make sure all those are tight. Everything that I have here, I'll just double check, put hands on it, and then we'll just kind of roll. So I'll throw you guys on a time lapse, and then I'm gonna move in slow motion, even though the time lapse is fast, because we're not getting in a hurry today, because I want to fire this thing up and actually be excited and have some fun today. Here's a look at everything. We got it all buttoned up. As far as I'm concerned, it's wired. Coils are loose. We're going to spin it a little bit because we want to build some of the oil pressure back up. I don't have any lube or anything in there. There should be oil in there. It should be okay, but again, cheap insurance to just rotate it a bit before we plug it in. All of these guys are good to go. I ruined my nice bracket to make a grounding point on either side of this, and then we got it on the back side of that. So hopefully all of this is grounded now, and then that should make a dramatic improvement, I would imagine, on my charging system. Everything is in and tight. The last time I drove this, which is kind of hilarious, we had a fuel pressure deal and I was messing with it and did the filters and all that. So the other side of this line was actually loose underneath. So that's why my fuel pressure changed. So we'll see what it ends up saying this time. But again, that's why you got to kind of slow down some days and just triple check and do stuff. Because when I had to take the intake manifold off, I found that that was loose. So that's no bueno. I would have figured it out because my fuel pressure probably wouldn't have been rising with intake manifold pressure, but it would have been one of those like, why isn't it doing it? Again, we got that unplugged there, but everything else is in tight. Happy. Oh, I gotta zip tie that down, and then oh, I gotta plug in my loud valve too. So let me do those things. I'll jump underneath and double check everything's tight before we take it off jack stands, and then we'll put some oil in, and then we're gonna give this thing a fire and see what happens. All right, now that we got all the formalities out of the way, and we got that sweet nectar of the gods oil in here, according to my buddy Joe, we're gonna spin it over a bit, and then y'all need to say a little prayer for me, because honestly, I'm like, man, come on, Boom. Feel like I'm back on race week right now. Come on, Boom. So you remember, we don't have I don't have the coils hooked up or anything. I guess technically I have a computer shut off. I got my ignition shut off, so I guess I don't have to do this anymore. Typically, when you go live, this is all live, but I have it hooked up so I can turn the computer on and off without the ignition. So that way the O2 isn't running and killing itself. So yes, I can remember that now. All right, we'll spin it over a little more, and then we'll just give it the old all right, boys, say a prayer. She's gonna go live. We go live in 3, 2, oil pressure, please. Well, I thought we were gonna be close, and I thought we'd have a running car for race week, or not race week, I'm sorry, LS Fest West. And here we are down in the dumps. That's crazy too, because it's actually worse now that I did that. So must be that Ford oil, I guess. That's what I get for trying to troll and be silly. Okay, let me regroup, turn the camera off, and I'm gonna go run and cry really quick, and then we're gonna regroup and figure out what we need to look at next. Well, you always gotta look at the bright side. The alternator's back in action, so the ground helped on the alternator. I wish that ground would have helped the oil pressure, but it didn't. So I'll just let this thing get hot. We'll let it sit here, but there's no way, because it's not even, it was at like 35 previously, and then when we put the new O-ring in, maybe I cut it trying to force it in and do it in the car or something. I don't know what this thing's deal is, so yeah, we'll just let it get hot. But all right, well, it's later in the afternoon. I drove it around, I gave it some RPM. I figured we'd get on the freeway and just get the RPM up, because driving around is too hard. You know, you're gonna kill people if you start zinging these things. and it basically doesn't go over 40 psi. So I got it up to like, I don't know, almost 5 grand or something. I wasn't really pushing it, but goes up to about 40. So basically the thing is crap, and we're gonna have to go back to the drawing board. I did ever try an oil filter, because I bought some like off-brand, because AutoZone or O'Reilly was having, they didn't have anything in stock when I went out there, so I picked an off-brand I don't ever use. So I was really grasping at straws, but you can only get disappointed in 3 times in one day. So this is my limit of disappointment for today. Tomorrow's a new day. I'll spend this evening kind of going over what I think I want to do to look at this guy. But yeah, for the most part, you can fire it up and drive it around. I just don't feel like zinging it if I'm not going to have the oil pressure there on the top end, because it doesn't seem like that's a great idea. So we will live to fight another day. Goonies never say die. Today was not the video I was expecting to make. I had some enthusiasm today, but now I feel like I just got punched in the gut. So yeah, we'll live to fight another day. You guys know what to do. Like, subscribe, share. Till next time, I'm out.